Welcome back, friends. This is Dr. Rahul Kamath of Ursa Medica, and today we are going to be talking about the Russia-Ukraine military conflict. The question which is uppermost in our minds is, will there be a catastrophic escalation of this? We all understand what that would actually imply in terms of the status of our world today. But we are also hoping that this could de-escalate. And if that be the case, are we already too late? So welcome to this video. We are going to be talking about the question we are going to be asking today is, will there be a catastrophic escalation of the Russia-Ukraine military conflict? And if yes, when? And we hope not, though. This is an astrological guided prognosis. I am Dr. Rahul Kamath. I am a medical doctor with a post-graduation in medical education and Jyotish Visharad. Okay, so with this, let us proceed. The approach which I am intent to follow is what I have called the 5-chart diagnostic approach. So this is essentially a combination of, this is a mundane astrological prediction. I have used charts of Russian Federation, Ukraine. So these are from 1991, because that's when actually the erstwhile USSR split into Russia and other associated countries, including Ukraine. Then Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and the time of military action, which was 24th of February 2022. From all counts, these timings have been taken from the internet. It is widely believed that the military action or the war was declared from Moscow at 6 p.m. on 24th February. So we have taken that as the time. Using traditional Parashari Jyotish, that means Rashi Kundali as well as Navamaush Kundali, we have done some analysis here, including the dashas and everything, and based on that we have found out the what happens really to the escalation. Does this escalate and when? And then for additional corroboration, we have used the Gochar or the transit chart of the world right now. So using the Kal Purush Kundali and the current transits, what do they signify? Do they corroborate our findings from the natal analysis? And finally, there is a summary presented in terms of what is likely to happen. Mind you, this is an astrological prognosis. This does not purport to be the whole truth or even the truth itself. This is an interpretation of what is likely based on Jyotish. With this, let us proceed quickly. We are now immediately first discussing the Russian Federation. We will be discussing each chart and then linking it to the larger picture. Now, if you look at the birth chart of sorts of Russia, and one more small thing, the D9 Navamaush chart has been shown as the spouse chart. Now, it is not only the spouse chart, as we know, it is actually a sort of an X-ray chart or a fine or a refined chart of the birth chart, derived from the birth chart. So, it's basically the Navamaush Kundali. Now, here if you notice, in the Russian Federation, the moon is in the ascendant in Leo. It's in the nakshatra of Magha, which is actually ruled by Ketu. So it indicates the blessings of the Pitters. It indicates the ancient nature of Russia in a sense, because this is the Russian Federation. So even if Russia was split from the USSR in a sense in 1991, it has ancient antecedents, as it were. Moon is with Jupiter, which is incidentally in the nakshatra of Venus Purva Falguni. So Jupiter in the Lagna, Moon in Siha Rashi, in Magha Nakshatra, in the ascendant, these are all, let's say, good signs. Now Lagnesh is of course Sun. Sun is in the 5th house, again in the nakshatra of Ketu. And if you notice, Sun and Moon are actually almost precisely Navam Pancham Yoga. Sun is 9 degrees 43 minutes in Sagittarius. Moon is 9 degrees 50 minutes in Magha. Almost congruent trinal relationship here. Sun is with Rahu, Uranus and Neptune. Now Uranus, these are outer planets. Neptune, particularly here in the 5th house, indicates a kind of energy, access to a certain kind of energy, which can be very destructive or it can be very constructive. So that's been the tale of, in a sense, of Russia. So Russia, the Russian Federation has a good chart. From the Lagnesh perspective, it is again a fiery, it's a fiery Lagna. The Lagnesh is again in a fiery sign in the 5th house. Mars is Yoga Karak here for Leo ascendant, and Mars is in its own sign in the Jyeshtha Nakshatra. Not exactly in Gandanta, but kind of close towards the end. So it's a kind of a powerful Mars. This will be the 4th pada of Jyeshtha. So it is again, it is basically it's basically in Aquarius Navamaush. If you see it in the D9 chart below, you see that Mars is in the 9th house in the D9. So we'll come to that. Venus, the 10th lord, is Mula Trikona in Libra, with aspect on the Bhagya Sthana. So in a sense, that's also a good placement. Rahu is very well placed again in the 5th house in D1. Although it's kind of awkwardly close to Sun, so there will always be a bit of a power struggle, power identity issues in Russia, as we already know. I mean, it's been about autocratic prime minister, but a very competent leader, managing the show there. And you see that Saturn is in H6 in Capricorn in own house, again in its Upachai. It's in its Upachai house. So it indicates a sort of a kind of a perseverant attitude of the nation to overcome all odds. Russia, incidentally, has never been defeated in war. Russia has never been colonized. It's one of the few countries in the world which have never been colonized. Okay. Now the D9, if you see the D9 here, D9 is slightly challenged because in the Lagna you have Sun and Moon together. So it's a kind of a sort of a combust situation there. And the Sun and the Rahu, we already spoke about that in the H5 in D1. But even then, if you notice, the trines are very well managed. You have Mars and Ketu. We say Kujavat Ketu. So Mars and Ketu are basically the magnifying the aggressive energy of Ketu there in the 9th house. And you have Jupiter with Neptune. Jupiter and Neptune are like, in a sense, Neptune is like the higher daddy, the higher malefic and benefic daddy of Jupiter, in a sense, because Neptune's sign is considered to be Pisces, and Jupiter is Pisces is also Jupiter's sign. Neptune incidentally stands for Varuna in the Vedic system. Although traditionally in the Vedic system we do not study the outer planets, but more and more the outer planets really need to be studied in mundane astrology if we want to make some accurate assessments here. Now incidentally here, if you notice, Rahu is again in a very good position in the D9. Now Russia is running the Moon Rahu Guru Rahu Vimshottari. So essentially it is running the Moon Mahadasha from 2019 to 2029. Okay, so one factor is that it is the Vyayesh, it is the Mahadasha of the 12th Lord. So in that sense you find that that's going to be a challenge for Russia, for surely. It is going to go into some level of decline. Although the Moon is very well placed, so it will recover. But after the Moon Mahadasha will be the Mars Mahadasha, and which augurs very well for Russia, because as I have already mentioned, Mars is the Yoga Karak here and placed in its own sign and all that. So, but nevertheless, in the Moon Mahadasha currently running Moon Rahu. Okay, so you see Moon and Rahu both are in the 1st and the 5th house respectively, and you have Moon Rahu, Jupiter Rahu right now. So it's a very aggressive, powerful, strong Mahadasha, and 18th August to 29th August of 2022 is Moon Rahu Jupiter Rahu. So Moon Mahadasha, Rahu Antardasha, Jupiter Pratyantar Dasha or Bhukti, and Rahu Sukshma Dasha. So you have here a powerful combination and chances of expansionary military escalation by Russia. Okay, so which means Russia is likely to do something big in the nature of military escalation during 18th August to 29th of August. Keep this in your mind as we move further. Now, here we talk about Ukraine now. Ukraine's horoscope is very frankly not a horoscope of a very fortunate nation. If you see the D1 chart, you see the immediate thing which occurs to you is the ascendant. You have the Capricorn ascendant here. Saturn in the ascendant in its own house, surely but retrograde, along with the moon. So moon Saturn together in the ascendant indicates a lot of self-doubt. Here with the retrograde Saturn, it indicates a sort of retrogression, plans not fully fructifying, a very serious, somber kind of a nature of a nation. And the other thing which strikes you immediately is the 8th house, which seems to be populated with, you have both the benefics, Jupiter and Venus in the 8th house, in Ketu again, you have Sun in Ketu, you have Mercury retrograde in Magha Nakshatra. When I say Ketu, I mean Magha Nakshatra, with the lord of which is Ketu. So here you see that the sign of Leo and the Nakshatra Magha, which is populated by 4 planets here, almost all of them in close conjunction, is in the 8th house with Gulika. So extremely bad kind of a positioning at first glance. Also Jupiter is malefic here, essentially because it's a H12 lord and H3 lord, so it's not exactly positive. Although Jupiter might make Ukraine ambitious in the short run and also courageous, which is exactly the story of Ukraine today. It is ambitious, courageous, probably courage not tempered with realism, as some might say, or courage with a lot of patriotism, as some others might say. Jupiter Mahadasha running from 2013 to 2029, so as we speak, and currently Jupiter Venus Rahu Ketu Vimshottari. At the time of 18th August to 27th August, you find the Jupiter Venus Rahu Ketu Vimshottari. Okay, Rahu Ketu again is not in the, you have Rahu in the 12th house with Neptune and Uranus retrograde. Neptune retrograde again. Now Rahu and Neptune, these are actually, a junior Asura and a very senior, very senior Vedic deity and Asura, Neptune or Varun, in the 12th house in a fiery sign, in a Venus Nakshatra, secretly plotting in the 12th house. So, it's a very dangerous kind of a situation here. Neptune, Uranus, Rahu all fall within 10 degrees in fiery Sagittarius. Okay, and in D9 you see Gulika Rahu in the 8th house. Although in the D9 you see that there is Jupiter in the Lagna in Bharani again. Okay, but then for D9 if you see, Venus is Marrakesh because it is the lord of the 2nd house and the lord of the 7th house in the D9 for the Aries ascendant, and Jupiter is in the Venus Nakshatra. So again it is going to contribute to some wrong decisions possibly, and as we saw from D1, Jupiter is not going to be beneficial to Ukraine. Okay, so it appears to me from the Dasha perspective as well as the chart analysis that there is going to be major destruction in August of 2022. Towards the second half of August of 2022, Ukraine is likely to face something probably much more violent than what it has faced so far. with that, we move on. Let's now talk about Volodymyr Zelensky, and the next slide is about Putin. Okay, so if you see Zelensky's chart here, Zelensky has a Taurus ascendant and Gulika in the ascendant. Okay, so for the Taurus ascendant, essentially Jupiter is malefic, okay, and it is the H8 Lord. Okay, and you see Jupiter and Ketu are in D9 in the third house of D9. So Jupiter is retrograde, number one. Jupiter is also in the second house in the D1 chart. It is retrograde, and it is in the Martian nakshatra of Mrugashirsha. It also indicates here, in a sense, some gift of the gab, because Zelensky speaks very well. He has the ability to convince people. He's almost like, for some people, he might be like a kind of a warrior guru of sorts. He can whip up passions, he can whip up patriotism and appeal to emotions of people. That is all Jupiter in the second house for him. Again in Gemini, which is the Aries sign, in the nakshatra of Mrugashirsha. Okay, so all fine, but then the exchange of houses between second house and 8th house is not exactly very positive here, because Mercury is in the 8th house, and so you have Marakesh in the Ashtam Sthana, 8th house, and you have Ashtamesh in the Marak Sthana. Okay, and you have a Mars which is debilitated clearly. Okay, retrograde and debilitated in third house. So, and Mars is with Moon, although it's separated essentially by about 18 degrees, but still they are together in the same house. That gives Zelensky a kind of a swashbuckling, adventurous, do or die type of approach. And his Lagnesh, the ascendant lord Venus, is in the 9th house with Sun. So that explains his world famous kind of profile today. He is more famous, more talked about probably than Vladimir Putin. Okay, he is lionized by parliaments across the world. But unfortunately here, if you see here, his, as I said, Moon, he's running a Moon Mahadasha till 2028. Okay, and again Moon in the D9 is very badly affected. Moon is with Neptune in the 6th house. So his mind is a bit warped. He is not able to think straight, and he is also very reactive, as we have seen from the D1 here, Moon and Mars. Now he is running Moon Jupiter till 25th of September 2022, and within that he is running Moon Jupiter Mars till 15th of July 2022, and Moon Jupiter Rahu from 15th July to 25th of September 2022. So right now he is in Moon Jupiter Mars. So he is thinking about more long range missiles, more attacks. We will liberate Ukraine in any manner. We will attack Russia, all that. He is likely to become probably much more vicious after July. But in this case, it appears to me that there is a danger to his life during Moon Jupiter, because Jupiter is, again, as I said, the 8th lord. Okay, so basically these are not good times for Volodymyr Zelensky. He has to, probably if he consulted an astrologer, he would have got some better advice. Okay, again you see in the D9 chart Saturn retrograde with Rahu in the D9. So, and Jupiter on the other hand with Ketu, again retrograde. So clearly it's not a chart which can win a war, in fact. And in fact his life is endangered, as I would say from my astrological understanding. Next we go to Vladimirovich Putin. Okay, so he is the president of Russia. Uh, so now here you see clearly a chart which is very powerful. I mean, I hate to say this, but just having seen the Zelensky chart, you will be able to see the difference here very markedly. This is a Libra ascendant with the Lord of the ascendant Venus in Swati Nakshatra in Libra in the ascendant. So that is one thing which is very noted. It shows us it is indicative of some level of charisma, some level of competence here. It's like Shukracharya is there sitting in your Lagna. Now here you see that Jupiter is exactly opposing Venus here. So Jupiter is although retrograde, so that's not a great thing. However, Jupiter and Mars have an exchange of house. If you notice, Mars is in Sagittarius, Jupiter is in Aries, exchange of houses. Plus, there is a Navam Pancham Yoga or a trinal relationship here with a Jupiterian aspect on Mars, which means all Martian initiatives by Putin will be successful because they are blessed by Jupiter essentially. Mars in the third house makes him courageous, undoubtedly. Saturn is this Yoga Karak planet, clearly. And his Badhakesh, his Badhakesh planet is Sun. So Badhakesh and Yoga Karak are together, very close by, in the 12th house. Although the Navam house is different, but they are in the 12th house in the D1 chart. So that means somewhere his Raja Yoga Karak planet Saturn is somewhat adversely affected, or because of the, let's say, proximity of the Sun. But since Sun and Saturn, they have a love-hate relationship, because after all, Saturn is the Putra of the Sun. So in a way, my belief is that this will not be too much adverse for him. Okay. Now he is running his Saturn Dasha. He is running the Dasha of his Raja Yoga Karak planet. So it is unlikely to fundamentally do him harm. So as we speak, he is running Saturn, Jupiter, Mars. Now notice, after 4th July, the energy changes. It becomes Saturn, Jupiter, Rahu. Now, when it comes to Rahu, remember Putin, espionage, his manipulative abilities, his secretive conspirational abilities. So you have Rahu here, which is in the 4th house in the Kendra in D1. You have Rahu here, which is in the 9th house in D9, again with Neptune and Mercury, which makes him very formidable. He can be vicious if he wants to. And then then you have Saturn, Jupiter, Rahu and Saturn again between 13th of August to 3rd of September 2022. So now basically what this indicates is a horoscope of a statesman and a very powerful military leader. Now, some additional points I have written here. I will not spend too much time on them, but you see that Venus is exalted in D9. Okay, and so that's one aspect here. And you find that the H10 Lord, as in the Karmesh or the Karmasthan Lord, is Moon, which is exalted in Kritika in Taurus in the 8th house in D1. Okay, so that's one point to note. And Moon is again having a direct aspect from Jupiter in the D9 chart, sort of. So in a sense, that Moon is exalted in, that also makes him cunning. So therefore, also Neptune, Mercury are conjunct in H12 in D1. Okay. So in D1, if you see H12, you see Neptune and Mercury are absolutely conjunct, almost like 1 degree or 2 degrees separated. So all these things make him a master of intrigue, espionage, cunning. This is a horoscope of a very powerful military leader, and it's possible that he can have a very well thought out expansionary military action during Saturn, June, Rahu, Saturn, which is between 13th of August to 3rd of September 2022. So this is my thought process about this chart. Okay, the final chart I wanted to look at was the military attack itself, the Muhurta of the military attack. Now the military attack, by all indications, at least from the internet, was announced in Moscow on the 24th of February 2022 at 6 p.m. So probably they had already started some kind of missile incursions or ground level activity, troop movements during the day, but it was announced formally in the evening in Moscow. So if we take a chart of that time, again you have ascendant Leo here, okay, which incidentally, actually, if you notice, is same as the ascendant of Russia. Now this is an interesting coincidence. Maybe it is not a coincidence. Maybe this is a kind of a sign of destiny here. So you have ascendant Leo here again, and Lord of the ascendant Sun is in Aquarius in the 7th house in the nakshatra Shatabhishak. Now Shatabhishak has connections with Neptune and Rahu both. Rahu being the nakshatra planetary lord, and Neptune being the deity, Varuna being the nakshatra devata. Okay, so this is formidable, and it is with Jupiter, who is a friend. So you have this kind of a thing. Also, Rahu is in the 10th house of this chart. So this Rahu in the 10th house is considered very good for manipulation, aggression, for all things worldly, in a sense. Okay, so if you look at the Marrakesh and the Badakesh, those kind of considerations here, the Marrakesh for this thing would be Mercury. Mercury is placed in the 6th house here. Okay, in Capricorn. Okay, and you have the Badakesh here will be the 9th lord, which is Mars. Mars is placed in a very good position, so it's unlikely to do any harm to this initiative, which means this initiative is likely to work out. Now, the Yoga Karak planet here is naturally Mars. Mars is again in the 5th house with Venus here, and they are conjunct. Mars Venus conjunct in the 5th house. Okay, so you see in the 4th house Moon and Gulika are conjunct. Okay, Moon and Gulika are conjunct, and along with Ketu in the 4th house in D1. Now what does this indicate? It indicates that this action might succeed. This action initiated by Russia could succeed, but there will be pain at home. There will be pain on the Russian mainland because of this, a kind of a spiritual pain, a kind of a financial pain, possibly even some kind of attack by Ukraine. Jupiter and Gulika are in H8 in D9. What does this indicate? It indicates a kind of a, in the way I look at it, it indicates a kind of a fallen morality of sorts. I mean, if you see Jupiter is also the lord of the 5th house. The lord of the 5th house going into the 8th house and being afflicted with Gulika is not exactly a very positive thing. However, again, if you look at the Vimshottari here, we have Mercury, Venus, Mercury, Vimshottari, which will be starting from 26th of July till 19th of December 2022, which means currently as we speak, we have the Mercury, Venus, Saturn going on. Okay, and Saturn is the lord of the 5th and lord of the 6th and the 7th house. So it's still in the domain till 26th of July. There will be talks. There is likely to be attempt to discuss perseverance, slow movement of troops. We recently saw today, or a few days ago, that severe Donetsk has fallen. Now they are looking at the other town of Lysychansk. So it's a gradual kind of a effort by Russia to capture. Along with that, there is talks going on wherever possible. But when Mercury comes into picture, when it becomes Mercury, Venus, Mercury, then the slow approach goes away and it is replaced by a kind of a quick calculating approach. Mercury being in the 6th house, and Mercury being also Dhanesh and Labhesh for this chart. So overall this action will become positive for Russia. Overall prognosis here is that, again, when you see Mercury, Venus, Mercury, Ketu between 15th August and 24th August, those 9 days you have the Ketu Sukshma Dasha, which can be devastating for Ukraine, because remember Ketu is Russia's or this chart's favorite planet. You have the key planets here. Vargottam, again, this Lagna is Vargottam here in this case. So what is the overall prognosis here? This military attack will succeed for Ukraine, will succeed for Russia. Sorry, there is going to be destruction of Ukraine in this process, but there will be a certain fall from grace of Russian idealism. So it will not be easy for Russia to resurrect its face in the world, although gradually it could do that. And there could be some spiritual pain at home in Russia because of this. Because after all, Russia considers it as part of its ancient legacy. Okay, so this is the analysis of the 5 charts that I have done. Now, what I have done after this is I have actually tried to summarize the findings. Before that, I have tried to corroborate it with the transit or the Gochar findings. So this is what the natal charts tell us, and the Vimshottari Dasha emanating from those charts tells us. Let us try to correlate this with what the Gochar or the transit tells us. Now there is going to be a Mars Rahu conjunction or a being together in the same house situation from June of 27th to August 10 of 2022. So as we approach June 27, or as we enter June 27, we find that Mars and Rahu start coming together. A sort of the pressure starts building up, more and more. Then you have Mars, Rahu and Uranus actually, which completely come together at 24 degrees of Aries on the 1st of August 2022. Now in the Kalapurush Kundali, this is the first house, Aries, right? So imagine the world, the Kalapurush Kundali, the first house, Aries, at 24 degrees Aries, you have Mars, Rahu, Uranus conjunction. This will be in the Bharani Nakshatra, the last pada of Bharani, and therefore Scorpio Navamaush. Okay, so that doesn't augur well. Okay, so you have Mars, Uranus, Rahu in Aries, and again the same Mars, Rahu, Uranus in the Scorpio in the D9 chart. This is quite explosive. We don't know how explosive this can be. And finally you have Jupiter, Neptune in Pisces in H12. So Neptune is a retrograde planet. Neptune is transiting backwards in Pisces. It will be at 0 degrees Pisces that time. After September 11, it will recede back into Aquarius. Okay, but till then it is in Pisces. So 0 degrees Pisces is basically the 4th pada of the Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra. Okay, which is a Jupiterian Nakshatra. And therefore Cancer Navamaush. Pada 4 will be Cancer Navamaush. So you have Jupiter exalted in its Navamaush, and Neptune in Pisces again in its own house, and in the 12th house, remember. So the 12th house is a house of decline, and Neptune is a Vedic deity of enormous power. It can be a great Devata or a great Asura as well. So Varuna has been referred to as an Asura in the Rig Veda. So if you wish, you could refer to my video on this separately on my channel. So that again doesn't augur very well. Now from the natal or the natal charts of these 5 charts and the Vimshottari Dasha findings, we know that there is likely to be violent destruction of Ukraine or in Ukraine during August 2022 second half. What this violent destruction entails, we do not exactly know. It could be partial, it could be total, it could be sort of it could be triggered by certain kinds of explosive actions. We do not know, but it appears to be something violent and explosive is likely to happen in Ukraine during August 2022 second half. Now, since the transit and the natal findings match or overlap substantially, because look here, the transit are independent kind of motions of planets as they stand today, and the natal findings are from when they were first ingrained or at the time of the birth of that chart. Since they overlap substantially, there is a high probability of this to happen. So that's my astrological reading of this, and with this I wish you a good evening or a good morning wherever you are listening from, or a good afternoon, and really thanks for watching. This is Dr. Rahul Kamath at Ursa Medica. If you like what I do, please subscribe to this channel and share this with your family, friends, or whoever may be interested in this kind of work. Thank you so much, and I wish my subscriber base quickly touches 100 now. I am at 98. So, like Sehwag, I am not getting tense. I am hitting my sixes as they come. Thank you so much, and goodbye.